Hi everyone, it's Penny Black and Jill Foster here with a new PB&J card class. And this is the first in our Refresh video series. And this card class is all about layered stamping. And this is a technique or an approach that I really love to turn to. It's a great way to make one layer cards or even very simple cards, but give them just that little extra something special. And that's what the layered stamping will do. So just to review, I did prep for this in advance, and if you missed the prep video and the video all about the ebook that goes along with this video series, I will put a link for you down in the YouTube description box so you can catch up on that. But inside my baggie for this, for the layered stamping, I've got our script stamp, I've got our Stick and Shine Beautiful Branches, I've also got our Leaf Trio stamp set, and our script and our footnotes stamp. And these are all of the stamps that I like to use to add the layered effect to my stamping. And I've just picked a few so it's not too overwhelming, and then I have stored them in this bag so that whenever I come across a focal point stamp that I want to use and add some layered stamping, all I have to do is pull out this bag. So like I mentioned before, this video is one in a series, and we do have this ebook available, Refresh 6 Design Ideas to Rejuvenate Your Card Making, and I'll link that for you down below. So I've got my bag out. Now I'm going to look through my stamps and pull out stamps that I think I would like to use with this technique. And I really wanted to do some brushstroke stamping, and I really like brushstroke stamps with this technique. So that is our Slender Tulips set. This one here is our Delicate Blossoms. And here is Finest and Thrive. And you'll see these are all solid silhouette stamps. That's why they're called a brushstroke stamp. And you put your color right onto the stamp itself. So you get a beautiful watercolor look without having to do much painting. I do have my paintbrush and a cup of water on hand off to the side. I'm stamping in the MISTI stamp positioning tool, and I am stamping onto Strathmore Bristol smooth paper. This is a really smooth paper that can also take water, and I find it makes all the difference when using these type of silhouette brushstroke style stamps where the image itself is solid. So I am going to be using some water soluble markers. You can use any type of water soluble marker that you have on hand. I am using some Arteza Twimarkers and also Tombow dual brush pens. Those are the two water soluble markers that I have in my stash, and I mix and match them together depending on what color I want. So I put on a light green first. I kind of turn the marker to its side, and I am putting that wherever I want green on the stamp. So by using the marker, especially with this detailed stamp, I can put green only where I want the green to be, and it actually goes quite quickly. It's a really fun way to color. Now I'm going to put some blue onto the flowers. So I've turned that marker off to the side, and I'm just kind of coloring it right there on the markers or onto the stamp. And you'll notice I worked with my light colors first, and then I will put a little bit darker color on. And when I put the darker color on, I'm just feathering that on. It's not going as far onto the image as the lighter color. And this is just a way to add shading. You don't have to do it. You could just use one blue and it will still look beautiful. I'm going to lightly mist this with water and then stamp onto that Strathmore Bristol smooth paper. And isn't that beautiful? It's just instantly stunning. Now, if you do have a few spots that you feel like look a little blobby or textured, just have that water and a paintbrush nearby, dip it in your water and pat it onto a paper towel so it's not too wet. And with that paper, you can just easily smooth that out, just sort of blend it out. And it is that easy to get a watercolor look onto your cards. These stamps are so fun and really great to turn to for this layered stamping effect. So I'm just going to dry that, and it's complete. That's it. That's how easy that is to do. So now let's add our layered stamping. I've got some Memento Toffee Crunch, and a key with this is we don't want it to be perfect. We just want a hint of this text here and there. I'm not even going to use an acrylic block, just my fingers so I can kind of bend the stamp, pat it on the ink pad, and stamp it right over those flowers, just in a few spots. Again, not trying to be perfect about it. You could practice on a scratch paper if you wanted to just see how much ink and where to hold it. And that's it. But adding that little bit of text on there just takes that to the next level. And you can see how easy this is to do. And it's a really great way to use your brushstroke stamps or to try out brushstroke stamps and have finished cards in an instant, really. I've just finished this card by adding a die cut and stamped sentiment. And if you love a technique and love a stamp, do it again, but just switch up the colors, which is exactly what I have done here. Now here are a couple other examples. You can see I did a little bit of inking through our background basic stencil and then did some script stamping through that stencil. Here I inked the center and did the script stamping just a little bit on the outer corners on top of the flowers. But it really makes a difference just to add that extra layer. Now here I have our Slender Tulips brushstroke stamp. Same thing, I'm stamping in the MISTI stamp positioning tool onto Strathmore Bristol smooth paper. I'm coloring onto the stamp using a mix of Tombow dual brush pens and Arteza Twimarkers, just looking for a water soluble marker, kind of turning the marker to its side so I can just sort of brush that right onto the stamp. And then I'm also going to grab my distress inks. So distress inks work well for this. I like the marker if it's a small space and I don't want to have the ink spreading all out. And the mini distress ink pads work really great if you have sort of a larger space or like these tulips. It's very easy to just ink the top part. I put on a light yellow and then a little darker, and I just turned it off to the side, the ink pad to the side a little bit, so I could manipulate that onto the flowers. I stamped onto that paper. I have my paintbrush handy with a cup of water and a paper towel so I can dip it in and pat it mostly dry, and then I can go back and blend. So the misting with the water sort of rejuvenates that ink if you've been coloring on the stamp for a while and it's dried a little bit, but it's imperfect. And so that's why I like to have that paintbrush handy, because then I don't have to worry about how much water I missed. I tend to go light with the misting. That way I know I can just blend it. If it needs a little more blending, I can blend it out on this paper with my paintbrush. If you over mist and you stamp, it's really not a big deal. If you're using a stamp positioning tool, just wipe down your stamp, re-ink it, and stamp it again. And it'll look really pretty. More water is a looser watercolor look. Less water is sort of a tighter look. Here you can see I wanted it a little bit darker, so I'm just taking that ink and turning it off to the side and just putting a little bit on the outside of the tulip, and then just lightly blending that. So you can also build up your color as you go. Now to add our layering on this image, we're actually going to use our stick and shine design with some embossing. So this is the Beautiful Branches stick and shine design. It's like a sticky rub-on, and I'll put a link down in the YouTube description box below for a more detailed video on exactly how our stick and shine works. But you cut out the piece you want to use, you peel off the backing, and I'm just going to apply it here onto the background using our applicator tool. You could also just use your hands or like an old gift card. Now you could put our foil over the top of this and do some foiling, but I'm actually going to do some embossing with it. So I love these delicate branches, and I love a touch of white with the flower. So I just went ahead, sprinkled it with embossing powder, and then heat it to set. And then to make that pop even more, I'm going to use an ink applicator tool and a foam pad, and I'm just going to ink over the top of that, trying to stay down where the stems and the leaves and those branches are. I don't want to go over the tulips too much because then they won't be such a pretty yellow. So just staying over that area, but you can see those branches really start to pop. And I did them in a couple other spots. Take a dry paper towel and just wipe off that ink off the embossing, and there you can see how much that layering adds to the card. So here is the finished card. All I did was add a sentiment and a couple of die cut butterflies, and the card is complete. Here's another card idea. Same idea. I did the branches, the tulips from the same set, and even some layered stamping there with our script stamp set. And now here are some more ideas. You can also do layering with, this is our leaf trio stamp set. I did a black and a lighter gray over that brushstroke stamping and added some ink splatters. So don't forget, ink splatters can also add that extra layer to your stamping. So let's take a look at these finished cards. Now, if you see a card you love and you want to know exactly what penny block supplies were used on it, I'll link our blog post down below. It will have pictures for each card, and underneath each card it will list exactly what penny block supplies were used on that card. So here are those ones. That has the stick and shine design with the embossing powder. The others had that footnote stamping. Here is a combination of the layered stamping and the stick and shine design. Very clean and simple card, but that layering just finishes it out, makes it something special. Here are the samples where I did a little bit of stenciling for the background, but then added that layered stamping just a little bit on the corners. Again, all of these are using brushstroke stamps. I love this technique with them, but you could also do it with line art and color the image in and then add your layered stamping as well. That one has that script. And here's where the layered stamping was our leaf trio. So you can also look for natural images. That doesn't have to just be script. You can look for natural images like that leaf trio, or try stamping your layers in a darker and a lighter color just for a little more interest. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, you will subscribe to our channel. You can keep connecting with us on Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, as well as our Instagram, website, and blog. Everything you need is linked down in the YouTube description box below. Happy stamping!